Have you ever wondered why Samsung, despite having some pretty impressive cameras on its ultra-class phones, always opts to include this tiny in-between lens? Or why, despite the insanely impressive sensors and lens structures in the Chinese Ultras, the focal length almost always seems to be between 3 and 4, instead of the 5 times and 10 times that so many other high-end phones use? Well, after well over a year of experimenting with these cameras, I think I've come up with a pretty reasonable conclusion about the weird middle ground focal length. This is the perfect camera that is hiding in plain sight. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and did you know that one of the most ubiquitous lenses ever used is what most photographers and videographers call the standard zoom, the 24 to 70mm. There are heaps of different makes, models suited to different camera systems, and the reason why they are so popular is that they pretty much do everything that you need minus some specialty things. That's where the likes of the 16 to 35 and 70 to 200 come in, as what is often colloquially referred to as the Holy Trinity. Covering 1 to 3 times, the standard zoom has been around for decades at this point, thanks to its natural look, its decent reach, and its versatility. But the cameras we tend to find on our smartphones are closer to 15mm on the ultra-wide, a 24mm rough 1 times, and a 100mm telephoto. So there's a bit more reach than you'd expect with a standard zoom, but importantly they're all across different sensors. The 0.6 and 1 times and 5 times are incredibly common among phones from Google, Apple and Samsung, but actually that last manufacturer has included an in-between lens for its Ultras for the last few years, one that you will probably find on its base and plus models as well, the 3 times, or to put it another way, the longer end of what would be a 24 to 70. But where on Samsung models it is unfortunately plonked on top of a generally quite lackluster 10 megapixel sensor, it's used far more excitingly in devices coming out of China, from the likes of Oppo, OnePlus, Xiaomi, Honor, Huawei and Vivo. You might look at the Pixel 10 Pro or the Galaxy S26 Ultra with their around 50 megapixel 5 times cameras, compare them to the aforementioned Chinese models with their 3 to 4 times cameras, and wonder why on earth they aren't opting to match the 5 times of the former. But the truth is that when you actually go and use a 3 times camera, in many ways it is far superior, and Samsung knows this, or it wouldn't continue to include it in its flagship model, the Galaxy Ultra. By the way, if you enjoy what we're making around here, then please do hit that subscribe button to help us hit our goal of 500,000. Thank you very much. When taking the 3 to 4 times cameras across models, it averages out at a rough focal length of a 72mm equivalent, or about 3/4 of the way to 100mm. Those are the cameras that we're used to seeing on the flagship models of the West. And that means that you start off a bit wider than those, and you have room to crop inwards. We will get into reach and croppability later, but from the get-go you're already taking photos and videos at a more natural focal length, with a field of view that allows for more stuff in the frame. Portraits are regularly taken at 50 to 85mm lenses on big cameras, so this sort of 72mm average on a smartphone really matches up quite nicely with what we're used to seeing from proper portraits. This next bit is a little bit conjecture or opinion-y, but I think that there's a particular look to smartphone photos, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're so used to seeing them taken in around that 24mm look. So if you went and took a photo with a 24mm lens on a big camera, it wouldn't look far off because of the way that there's distortion and where things in the frame sit as they get closer to the camera. And when you switch to a 3 times, you get just a little bit of compression. Your instinct is to feel like the photos taken with those lenses are just a little bit more impactful than something that someone has quickly taken on their smartphone. Even before we look into lighting, bokeh blur, the composition, the compression that you get from a 3 times versus a 1 times really helps differentiate it. And because you aren't starting off so zoomed in, you can more easily get what you want in the frame. Of course, you could always crop into the 5x look. That's something that people do. With a Samsung 3x, you either get a pretty bad looking photo or it will just automatically switch you to the 5x if you're holding an Ultra. Whereas on something like a OnePlus 12, Xiaomi 17 Ultra or Honor Magic, you have a high resolution sensor base, much better than the 10 megapixel that you would get on a Samsung. And so you can really, in a lot of cases with these Ultra class phones, rival what those native 5x can do and even push further up to 8x, 10x zoom before you get a sort of mushy image. Whereas with the iPhone Pro Max, the Pixel Pro XL, the Galaxy Ultra, in many cases starting at that 5x, the sensors underneath aren't nearly at the level to be able to push as far. Apple has stepped back from 5x to 4x actually. We saw this happen with the 17 Pro series, and honestly that would be great if the telephotos weren't bad in iPhones. I compared the 17 Pro series to the high-end flagships from last year, and yeah, there might be a new camera in there, it might be shiny, but it's really not that good, and Apple is a ways off being able to compete with those other models with its 4x, despite the fact it's a new sensor. The 3 to 4x Goldilocks lenses on smartphones isn't exactly a healthy or particularly interesting place on mainstream models in the West. Apple, Google and Samsung, as I've said, all pretty much use the 5x. Galaxy phones use that rubbish 3x. Apple can't seem to get telephotos right whatsoever actually, and even if we go beyond that, OnePlus phones, which are sold in America, well, they've gone backwards with the 3x on the OnePlus 15. It's a smaller sensor than before. Where this stuff is thriving is in China, and given we have just heard that Oppo and Vivo will be joining Xiaomi in releasing their Ultra flagship models to Europe as well as China, as they were limited just before, it's not impossible to think that we might be able to see this high-end tech leak into the Western stuff in the next few years, and what an incredible thing that would be. One caveat there is about these things is that the 3x lenses on these Chinese phones tend to be massive, and so you end up with camera bumps that honestly just look crazy. They look like this. Something that I've seen people lamenting both online and in person as well. But there is another way. Whilst I'd personally love these sensors to be 1/1.28 inches, 1/1.4 inches, massive things, OnePlus kind of nailed it with the OnePlus 12 and 13 in a bit of a sweet spot, a bit of a middle ground. Noticeably bigger than the Pixel at 1/2 inch size, but still not taking up a huge amount of room like you'd expect from those phones that we've seen coming out of China. In the grand scheme of things, it's quite a nice compromise. And that's an obstacle that smartphone makers will just have to figure out, but I don't see it as an impossible challenge. The world just looks cooler through a 3 to 4x lens in my opinion. Couple that with a great sensor and you have, for me, the perfect smartphone camera. Whilst the mainstream brands in the West insist on smaller sensors behind 5x lenses, I feel like there's a sweet spot that's been hiding in plain sight. Let me know in the comment section if you've ever used a phone of this kind of camera, and if you're a 3x fan, what is the phone that you've been using right now if you are really into the 3x? Whilst you're down there in the comment section, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and subscribe to never miss another upload on this YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.